Hello and welcome to the programme. Now, back in October 2018, the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry, together with the StratCom Ukraine Center for Strategic Communications, launched an online campaign called #CorrectUA, which is aimed at correcting the spelling of Kiev to Kyiv, that's K-I-E-V to K-Y-I-V in foreign media outlets. Now, Ukrainian officials and activists have really long lobbied international media to stop using the Soviet-era Kiev and adopt the official post-independence K-Y-I-V spelling. Now, to talk more about the results of this campaign, we're joined in the studio today by Oksana Horbach. She's the head of the Transformation Department at the Center for Strategic Communications, StratCom Ukraine. Hello, Oksana. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So we've had some small victories recently. We've had Luton Airport in London, also in Budapest and Tallinn in Estonia.
And Copenhagen.
And other airports as well. They've been changing from the spelling of Kiev to Kyiv.
Yes.
But perhaps more predominantly, certainly online, was the change of spelling for The Guardian newspaper, who changed their editorial policy.
Yes, it was a big win, exactly. And also the European Union diplomatic representation here, they also changed
in their emails.
In the emails, right.
So, first of all, why now? It's 2019. Why do you think this is all changing at once?
Well, it's hard to say, exactly, because, you can only guess at this point. But, the campaign was launched in 2018 and it just was building up over time. And we saw that it would get traction with opinion leaders like Uliana Suprun, and it would be huge with her fans. And then Elon Musk, and that it was huge. And then some airports, some news outlets would be coming on board. And I think that, at some point it just gets so massive that there is really no choice. You just have to, get on board. And I think this is what happening with The Guardian. So I just think that they've been just, aware of the fact that they are been using the name of our capital incorrectly. And it's not just about the spelling of it, but also about the legislative basis, which was actually adopted by Ukrainian Verkhovna Rada back in 2010. And it's absolutely legal for them to say Kyiv, not Kiev.
So what sort of strategy is there to encourage these international media outlets and airports and perhaps other businesses to use the correct spelling of Kyiv?
This is a good question because, the key driver for that was social media, of course. So we saw that the public needs to be engaged into that because, there are so many Ukrainians who really care, not only in Ukraine, but around the world. So if they pick up the hashtag, if they actually mention those news media or airports or other institutions who are using the name of our capital in English language incorrectly, so, they would be heard, actually. However, I need to say that communication part of that is only a component because there is a hidden part of that, which is the actual work of the government bodies. Particularly, Ministry of Foreign Affairs would be engaging their diplomatic missions, Ukrainian diplomatic missions around the world, to apply to official institutions, to airports, to news and media outlets to actually change their spelling of our capital. And, you can see that they were successful because actually their work in Great Britain is quite fantastic. The writing of the Kyiv in Luton Airport was actually the outcome of diplomatic mission activities.
Because I actually saw on their Twitter page, I was looking at it just before we started talking, and thousands of people go through Luton Airport. So it's just a small thing. They just see a different spelling. And then probably from then on, they will start to use it.
But I think that this is about the integration of communication and social component and that government, force, because they were trying to do this since 2010. I mean, there were numerous letters written before 2018. Very many efforts, a lot of efforts was, actually put into that and no effects whatsoever. So, social component of that, the power of people, actually, power of social media, basically. So it was a driver ever. And of course, with such a huge support from people, from Ukrainian and foreign audiences, I think that a lot of institutions didn't have really choice. So they were like, okay, if it's legal and we are being asked nicely, let's do it.
Yeah, and actually a lot of people who are my friends on Facebook and Twitter, I often see them responding to comments where perhaps journalists or editors use the old spelling. So
as they would be correcting them, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think this is so important as well, because perhaps even the journalists and the editors don't know that there's any mistake.
Well, my favorite was with Elon Musk, actually, because he was actually corrected using this hashtag, Kyiv, not Kyiv, Elon Musk, and he was like, okay.
And he responded to that?
Yes, he responded to that. Yes, he was like, oh, yeah, right, got it.
So how would you rate your campaign so far? What do you think are your major achievements, and what is the journey ahead for you?
Major achievement is still ahead of us, really. I think that our major achievement would be when Boryspil Airport and the Ukrainian International Airlines changed the spelling of Kyiv into Kyiv.
Is there anything that stops them doing that?
They refer to the regulations of the International Air Transport Association, and the transliteration for Kiev in that big database is actually with I and E, Kiev. So Ukrainian government avia service actually applied to this association and requested the change, and they responded positively. They said, okay, we will change it because this is there is a legislation for that, and you ask them nicely. So
but was it a question of logistics? Because, for example, if you change the spelling of the city on the different departure boards, you have to change a lot of stuff in the computer, I would imagine. A lot of official documents have to be changed. So is that what's stopping them doing it faster, do you think?
Well, it's hard for me to say. I'm not an airport specialist, but I can actually think that if Copenhagen Airport can do it, Boryspil can do it as well. These are both very big European airports, right? So, and for me personally, it's about navigation, around the airport. So you actually want to make sure that all the screens use the correct spelling of Ukrainian capital. So how much time does it take? I don't know, but I assume that the effort is actually worth it. So
I would actually think another major challenge, by the way, just before we started talking, I went on Wikipedia. I was just interested to see how they spell Kiev. And on the title, they have both variations on the page, but on the title, they still have the old version, the K-I-E-V version. So perhaps also that's another thing to aim for.
We actually applied to Wikipedia to change it. However, I think a lot of more efforts needs to be taken for them to react.
A lot of letters.
Yeah, a lot of letters. Yeah. Or another social media campaign. Hey, Wikipedia, please write correctly.
But this is what you need. You need people to write to Wikipedia and lobby them to change it.
Absolutely. This is, part of the process, and I think that Kiev is only the first step, because there are other cities which spelling is not correct. So, I mean, Kharkiv, Odessa needs to be spelled correctly in international airports and news outlets as well, and this is the next step that, needs to be taken.
Yes, and how do you plan to do that? Do you have a strategy for that, or are you still thinking about the best ways to approach this?
We're still thinking about that. It's still in the process, and I just want to mention that we are not doing it alone, and the success of this campaign is not solely on communication part of that. I mean, something that we've been responsible for. The state and government bodies which actually wrote those numerous letters and requests to official organizations is absolutely crucial. But together we can, with coordinated effort, we can be so much more effective. So this has been currently negotiated, and especially with elections in place, I think that it would be really after the elections when the stability is different, better.
And actually, what sort of arguments do you have against changing the spelling from Kiev to Kyiv?
The only objection is the reference to the transliteration used by the International Association of Avia Transport. That's it. That's basically it. There is absolutely. So as soon as they change it, there will be basically no objection whatsoever, because Ukrainian legislation is very clear about that, and this is actually everything you need.
And also, I can imagine that this would help Ukraine in the information war against Russia as well.
Well, I'm not very comfortable speaking about that. I mean, I don't know about all the information warfare instruments there. But what I can say is that when we Ukrainians accept the fact that we have our own country and our language, and when we actually are persistent in our effort to make sure that everybody understands this, Kyiv is only part of that effort, and it's an important one. It's the first one. And from all those objections around Ukraine, you can see that, you know, internal kind of like limit to that is pretty high, and this needs to be overcome. So I think that step by step we need to just accept that, okay, we are not part of that post-Soviet area anymore. We are a different country and we have our own path to go. So Kyiv is only one step in that, and I wouldn't dare to say it's a big one, but it's definitely an important one because it's the first one, one of the first ones. So I just think that it all very much depends on us, on our Ukrainian consciousness, and as soon as we get on board with that, everybody will as well.
Okay, Oksana, thank you so much for coming to our studio. It's been really interesting, and best of luck with your campaign.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was Oksana Horbach, the head of the Transformation Department for the Center for Strategic Communications, StratCom Ukraine. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.